Okay, so hi to everybody, and we're in our post Shavasana week. And as I wrote in my email to many of the participants, I hope that the light of Shabbos has spilled over into your week, which is really what we hope for every Shabbos, that when we make Havdalah and we fill up the cup, the Havdalah cup, and we always want to have it filling till overflowing, that the blessing of Shabbos should spill over into the week. So on Shabbos, we were talking about Avram Avinu, and we continuing in this journey of Bereshit, we're continuing to look at the family that's going to be that family that's going to, in different language, but in the language of someone that I'm very close to, a family that's going to hold the light, really, for the planet, that's going to hold this divine mission from on high. And in a sense, if we look at Abraham, we see how he was this person who was seeking for this divine connection from the earliest moments that he's sort of conscious. He's, even as a very young child, he's seeking this connection with who is the creator of the world. What does that creator require? How can he serve that creator? And we spoke 2 weeks ago about Lech Lecha Hashem basically identifies Abraham as the seeker, as this person who is really open to the journey. And the journey is in forging this relationship with, in forging the relationship with his higher self, with the creator of the world, with um, with God, with the Ribbono Shel Olam. I just want to welcome Miriam. I see she's signing in, and Leah is signing in, and Susan's coming to her place. So that's good. So I guess Leah's still trying to get on, but
getting paper.
yeah. So Abraham is this person that when we were speaking on Shabbos, what does it mean to be a Jew? Abraham is the father of many nations. He's not only the father of the Yidden, he's the father of Yishmael as well. But when it comes to selecting the combination of DNAs of Abraham paired with Sarah, so then you get this unique combination of a very sensitive neshama, a soul that's very sensitive to making a connection with Hashem. And so we saw the effort, and we spoke last year in last year's Shavasana, how this effort for Abraham and Sarah to actually create a new generation was really not easy, and had to go higher than nature for that to be accomplished. Because according to nature, Abraham was old, Sarah was old, and almost impossible, according to natural law, that well, actually not almost impossible, but for sure impossible, because according to some opinions, Sarah didn't even have a womb. She had, or she was completely past menopause or whatever, according to her biology and according to things in this world, Ifsha, not possible for her to have a child. But yet what the Jewish people are imbued with, and what Sarah and Abraham had together, was this connection to something higher than nature. This is what we're talking about in our Tanya class as well, that there's an aspect of God, the name that's connected to the name Havaya, that's higher than nature, that's higher than the rules of nature. So according to that level of connecting, anything is possible. And so from that place that's higher than nature comes Yitzchak as a child to Avram and Sarah. And then Yitzchak begins this path of a nation, a family, a future even you could say a DNA of a people that have the capacity to operate higher than nature. So is that Melissa who joined with the phone number? I'm wondering if that's Melissa 203, because we haven't seen her on the line for a while, if that is Melissa. But so then we spoke last week about and this is what we spoke a little bit about at Shavasana, that after Avram Avinu has a bris, he's also doing something that cements him into this connection of higher than nature, because on the 8th day, he circumcises himself, which we said on Shabbat, brought him to not just a level where he's honoring Hashem and connecting to Hashem in a special way because he's fulfilling a mitzvah, but we said, and this was a chiddush really, that he himself changed so profoundly through doing that mitzvah, because he revealed a new level in himself through that circumcision. And what was that level that he renewed or revealed in himself? What was that level that he revealed? We gave a new explanation on the words Yirei Shemayim, that Yirei Shemayim doesn't just mean fear of heaven, awe of heaven. It means seeing God in the world. Yirei Hashem, seeing Hashem in everything. And so because he sees the godliness in everything, even though he's talking to Hashem, and he's having his one-on-one with Hashem, he sees Orchim in the distance, and because he sees godliness in everything, he understands that it's actually even higher to engage with that godliness that's being revealed in the world, because he's seeing that that's also a manifestation and an extension of Hashem. So, of course, Abraham and Sarah are operating on a higher plane. They're connecting to this aspect of Hashem, which we're saying is an aspect of Havaya. And I want to welcome Kayla because she's new to this class. So hi, Kayla. So they have a special task and they need to stay committed to that task. And whatever it takes to preserve that mission and to preserve that family, they need to do. And so we speak often about the difference between Gevura and Chesed, and that Avraham is the example of Chesed. But in the story of Sarah taking a stand and telling Avraham that they need to send away Hagar and Ishmael, Sarah is acting with Gevura. And again, we've been talking in Tanya class that sometimes Gevura can seem like it's assertive and it's strength and it's constrictive and it's very boundaried, but sometimes that can be for the sake of chesed. It's actually a deeper manifestation of chesed. And so Sarah knows that her son Yitzchak is this future of this nation that is going to operate on a level of Havaya, that's going to operate in the world on a level that's higher than Elohim. Remember, Elohim is the aspect of God that hides himself in creation and hides himself in nature, hides himself in the rules of nature and the laws of nature. But that's not the Jewish people's path. The Jewish people's path is to connect to Havaya, which is higher than the rules of nature. So if Yishmael is threatening the well-being of Yitzchak and the purity of Yitzchak and the safety of Yitzchak, then Sarah has to act, because she's the matriarch. She's the woman who holds the space. This is the power of Gevura. She's the woman who protects the family. She's the woman who holds that identity of that holy family, and she has to act. Now, it's interesting because Sarah is the one who insists really that Abraham should send out Hagar and Ishmael, because she sees that Ishmael is behaving inappropriately with Sarah. Now, it's interesting because the Rambam says, Maimonides, he says, that wasn't, that's that's an action that Sarah took on herself that's had, enormous repercussions throughout time. On the other hand, she couldn't risk the mission being put into danger. So Sarah takes that step and she protects what's going to be the heritage of her family, the Yerusha of her family, which is she and Abraham were able to produce Yitzchak. And so when we come to this week's Parsha, which is called Chayei Sara, we basically start off the Parsha and we're celebrating the life of Sarah. And we're not just celebrating the life of Sarah for her own sake. We're celebrating the life of Sarah as she continues to be present in the lives of the next generation. And that's really what I want to look at today, because we're all about progeny, and we're all about the next generation, and we're all about how have we created families and who are the members of our families. And then it comes time to find shidduchim for them, and how do we look for the appropriate shidduch for that family, so for that child of ours, so that whatever it is, the mission that we spend time inculcating in our children should be passed on to the next generation. So before we go really fully into the Parsha, I just want to read a couple of the Hayom Yoms from this week. And the first one is one that connects to the first line of the Parsha. So we'll come into the Parsha actually sharing the words of the Parsha, and we'll come to that very, very first line of the Parsha. This is where we get the name of the Parsha, and the very first pasuk of the Parsha is V'yihiyu Chayei Sara Mea Shana Ve'esrim Shana Ve'sheva Shanim Shnei Chayei Sara. And we told that Sarah's lifetime was 127 years. The years of Sarah's life were all equally good. And Rashi says to us that when we say Mea Shana, 100 years, and then Ve'esrim Shana, and 20 years, and Ve'sheva Shanim, and 7 years, these are the years of her life. We could have just said it quickly, 127 years, but this we learned last year. The pasuk articulates each 120 and 7 to tell us that each unit has its own value. When she was 100 years old, she was like a 20-year-old, as innocent as a 20-year-old. And then when she was 20, she was as beautiful, and I would say also innocent and full of vitality. And, that gorgeousness of a 7-year-old is not a sophisticated gorgeousness. It's a sort of innocent, unaffected beautifulness. So that's what she has when she's 20, as much as she had when she was 7, and that all these years were equally good. So I'm just going to stop the share for 1 minute and mention that the Hayom Yom today feeds right into that pasuk. Well, it's not for today. It's actually from Monday, the Hayom Yom from Monday, which is that one should treat one's time with vigilance, because it's the Hayom Yom is one must be vigilant about time. One must take upon oneself the yoke of Torah. Every period of time, every day that passes, it's not just a day, but a life's concern. I'm going to explain this in a second. Days go by, and as the Talmud says, a day enters, a day departs, a week enters, a month, etc., a year, etc. My father quoted the Alter Rebbe, a long summer day, a long winter night is a year. So in a way, this we have when we count the Omer and we count every day of the Omer, we're talking about, the value of time. But when it comes to Avram and Sarah, the Meforshim stress that each day they strove to connect to I guess there's also in Torah learning, there's a connection between day and the concept of light, because when Hashem created the world and he created with light, and then there was day and there was night. So day is also connected to light. So every day of our lives, we encouraged to find that light, to connect to that light, to make that connection to what's above each and every day. And then, there's this concept of how am I going to spend time, or how am I going to pass the time? So we don't pass the time, and we try not to, waste time. Time is a tremendously valuable commodity. So the Alter Rebbe quotes, a long summer day or a long winter night is a year, which I guess, how much can you accomplish in a long summer day or a long winter night? And also in spirituality, of course, in a way, there is no time. So there is time and there is no time. If you immerse in something, even for a few hours, it can, and you put quality attention to that, it could almost have like a timeless aspect to it. So that's from Monday. And the other one that I just want to say, which is so kind of cute, and it's not particularly connected to the Pasha, but I do want to say it. It's actually the Hayom Yom for right now, being tonight. Thursday, it's already the one for tomorrow because after dark. It says that the birth of Reb Shalom Dovbe in the year in which the Tzemach Tzedek termed Kitra crown, he was named for the Mikla Rebbe and blah, blah, blah. And then it says, every year my father delivered a mimer on his birthday, but he did so secretly when it coincided with Shabbos. On his last birthday here on earth, he said the mimer, Natata L'Rei Echanes. When he concluded, he said to me, and this is why I'm reading it, on one's birthday, a person should say Chassidus. May Hashem give you a gift that you may say Chassidus on your birthday, but it should be with kindness and mercy. And then it said that it actually took a while for it's okay. So this is an idea that on a person's birthday, it's a good thing to try to gather together some people. We have the idea of a Farbrengen, to gather together some people to say Chassidus, to share Chassidus. That's a good thing. So that's connecting to the days of Sarah's life, the mission that we're talking about in this week's Parsha, that actually she passes away and Avraham is finding a burial place for her. And we could think that why we're talking about her death when the Parsha is called the life of Sarah, but it's really to show us how her values and her family continue on. And when we think about the family, let's go back into the reading. When we think about the family, we're going to be looking at the story of the Shidduch. So just to go, so basically in this week's Parsha, Abraham is buying a burial place for Sarah, and we know that he buys the Marat HaMachpelah, and he buries her there. And so we're not going to go into that. We've talked about that before. And then the next part of the Torah reading is there he buries her in Marat HaMachpelah. And then he's basically starting to talk to Eliezer about the Shidduch. And he says to Eliezer, I want, he gets Eliezer to make a promise that he's going to look for a wife for his son, because this is now the major, as you know, it's a Jewish custom to spend a lot of energy and time looking for the right shidduch for your child. And so he's saying to Eliezer, don't take a wife for my son from around the place where I live. I want you to go to where my family comes from and go over there and look for a wife from over there. And Eliezer says, maybe she's not going to follow me. Maybe I won't find the right person. Maybe I won't be successful. And and then he says, if I can't find somebody there, he'll come back with me. Can I take your son over there to the land that you left? Remember how Abraham was told to leave his land and to go to the land of Canaan. And then Abraham says, no, my son can't go back there. You're going to have to bring a woman who's going to come over here. And he says, okay. So then he swears, and then we're going to come into the third reading. So here we're going to start looking with a little bit of Rashi. So the servant took 10 of his master's camels, and he set out, and he had all of Avram's wealth in a document showing that he's coming with a great deal of wealth and importance. He's not traveling representing just any old person. So, and it says, of course, that his camels were muzzled. We said this before. He distinguished himself from Lot by muzzling his camels. And then he comes to where he's going, and he comes actually very quickly to where he's going. It says he rose up and he made his way to Aram Naharaim, to Haran, the city where Nahor, Avram's brother, has settled. But he actually comes there very quickly. Hashem makes the way extra quick for him. And then it says, he made the camels kneel outside the city near a well of water in the afternoon, when women go out to draw water. So he's coming to the well. So I just want to stop the share for this for a minute and just talk about the Kabbalistic properties of doing things by a well. So it's very interesting that the Zohar and the Torah goes to great extent talking about, I don't want to say the magical, because that's not really the right word to say, the magical properties of water, but the special properties of water. And I really never learned this before, but Reb Michal of Zlotchov explains the significance of a well. Now, I always knew, really, I have a mashpia, one of my mashpiim, Miriam Rhodes, who says, whenever you go past water, you should always say, like a body of water, like a lake, or the first time you see an ocean, you should say, Mayim b'shem Baal Shem Tov, Mayim Siman Bracha. In the name of the Baal Shem Tov, a body of water is Mayim, is a sign, a siman bracha. Okay, I always said that, but it actually turns out that it's so much more. Reb Michal of Zlotchov explains the significance of a well. I don't know if you remember, but when Sarah sent Hagar and Ishmael out into the great unknown, into the wilderness, Hagar, at some point they ran out of water, and Hagar, not being a Jewish mama, she didn't have water for her son, and her son wasn't doing so well. So she actually left him because she couldn't bear to see his suffering, and she walked away. So there, right in there, I don't think a Jewish mother, I mean, I don't want to be racist. A Jewish mother would ever do that. So she's crying somewhere far away, and then the malach comes to her and tells her to open her eyes, and actually she's right near a well. And then Ishmael is saved, and they okay. So Reb Michal of Zlotchov explains that regarding Hagar, an angel appeared to her near a well because of the holy dimension of water. And this is amazing, because we live in times where that book, and I've forgotten how you pronounce his name, that man who did experiments of the microscopes with water responding to people shouting at the water, and then the crystals of the water got all scattered, and then people who said blessings to the water or spoke to the water nicely, the water arranged itself in beautiful, harmonious crystals. Water is a living, breathing thing. So water has holiness, and not just holiness because it's a living, breathing thing and responsive to energy in a very powerful way, but water is connected and compared to Torah. So Hashem's will and wisdom. And that's why only by a well could the Malach have appeared to Hagar. While she was in Abraham's house, maybe that was different, but outside of Abraham's house, if she wouldn't have been near a well, then she wouldn't have had the schus of seeing this Malach. And then it says, just like Torah, water comes from the highest heights into the world in order to nourish and strengthen. So water is connected and compared to Torah, which is Hashem's will and wisdom. And so only could the angel, as I just said, appear to Hagar by the well. So now it comes in this week's Parsha that when Eliezer doesn't feel like he has so much schus, he doesn't feel like he has that much merit to actually meet the right girl and have everything happen to him in a blessed way, because he doesn't know. You go on a mission and your master says, go to the village that I came from and find a special girl for my son. I'm sure you're going to be successful. Just you'll be fine. And he's thinking, well, that's okay for you to say. You're a holy person. You Avram Avinu. You connected to God on high all the time. I'm just your humble servant. How do I know that I'm going to be successful? So it says that he stood by the well because he was hoping in the merit of the water, he would be able to do what his master requested of him. Now, I know that a lot of our forefathers met their shidduchim by a well. We know Yaakov met Rachel by a well. Moshe met Zipporah by a well. I just thought, those are good socializing places, like you go to a bar, lahavdil, and it's a good place to meet people. But it turns out that spiritually, it's a place of revealed blessing. So much so, now this makes it actually another beautiful thing when we think about our summer retreat, that the summer retreat is by a big lake of water. So what does it say in the Midrash, in the Yalkut Shimoni, on a commentary on Ezekiel? It says, outside of Israel, Hashem's indwelling presence, his Shekhinah, cannot reveal itself except near water, due to water's special qualities as mentioned by above. So before you get too nervous and feel bad if you don't live near a lake or an ocean, or you're not constantly next to water, don't feel bad, because water is compared to, what did I just say a few minutes ago? To Torah. So water is compared to Torah. And Torah is called a flowing well. So if you immersed in Torah and you connected to Torah, then in that way, you connecting to this bracha of water, so to speak, because water is compared to Torah, but it still is telling you that, and I'm sure many people feel that when they go to the ocean or they go to a lake, they do feel kind of calming energy, but spiritually, it's the water is aiding because there's a revelation. Question from Susan.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, because I never heard about this, going by a body of water and saying Mayim Baal Shem Tov. Did I get it right?
B'Shem Baal Shem Tov, in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, we say Mayim Siman Bracha. Water is a sign of blessing.
And the other thing is,
Amen.
Susan, another question?
yeah, besides Zipporah, Moshe, and Eliezer setting up Rivka, who else had a shidduch by the water?
Moshe met Zipporah and Yaakov met Rachel, and now Eliezer's meeting Rivka at the water. He's a shaliach. He's not the boy himself, but he's the messenger of the boy or the messenger of the father.
I was
Meaning,
just trying to decide whether to get a pool pass this year.
yeah. Okay,
No, we're
Yaakov,
gonna
you
build
had a
wells.
question.
Did you read what I wrote? We're gonna build wells, and then we're gonna solve the crisis because everyone's gonna swim
Yeah.
well.
Okay, Yaakov, you had a question.
To say two things. I may have, maybe you already said this and I may have missed it, but Yitzchak, I never thought about this before, but Yitzchak is known for having dug a lot of wells. And also after Yitzchak, I think was the Philistines or somebody, they tried to stop the wells and stop the
Well,
wells.
of course, not only Yitzchak, Abraham was the
Abraham
first
built,
one
right.
to dig the wells, and then the Plishtim stuffed them up, which if the wells are a source of living water, you can imagine a Torah person comes into the world and he's trying to reveal all this goodness and this holiness, and the enemies of that goodness and holiness are trying to keep it stuffed. So all the wells that Abraham dug, Yitzchak had to re-dig and re-reveal all those wells, and then he even digs more wells. But the digging of the wells and the revealing of the water is always a symbol of Torah. And so when the Yidden are in the desert and we talk about Miriam's well, yes, they drank water, but it's also connected to a hashpoah, influence of Miriam on the people, so that when Miriam passes away, they all start fighting. It's not just that they thirsty, but something gets very disrupted when she passes away, and they start arguing, and then we have the hitting of the rock and a lot of things. So water is connected to revelation, Torah wisdom, and just something to drink when you're thirsty in the desert on a hot day. Okay, so let's go back into our share. So we're going back into the share. So there he is, and he's hanging out near a well when the women go out to draw water. And he says, then he says, God of my master, Avram, arrange events for me this day, such that you grant a favor to my master, Avraham. Here I stand by the spring of water, and the daughters of the townspeople are coming out to draw water. Now listen to this, because this is going to be another thing we're going to have to talk about. Let it be that the maiden to whom I say, please tilt your pitcher so that I may have a drink, and who replies, drink, and I will also give water to your men and your camels, will be the one whom you have designated for your servant Yitzchak, and I will know through her that you have acted kindly with your master. So the Medrash has a little bit of a problem with this, and it's actually pretty interesting. So what happens in the Medrash? What does it say? It says that there were a few people who sort of said that if this happens, then I'm going to do that. This happens, I'm going to do that. And it's not really okay to do that. It's not really okay to do that. So who were the four other people who did this? It said they made requests in an improper way. And three of them, Hashem was kind to their requests, and he sort of responded in a way that they managed not to get into trouble. But the fourth one,
Wasn't that Abraham's
I'm going to tell you.
brother?
So let's see. So Eliezer, so the Medrash, Eliezer said, it shall be that the maiden to whom I say, please tip, this one is going to be the girl, right? But you know, what happens if a slave woman or a completely inappropriate girl would have come to the well and seen that he was thirsty and offered him to drink? Like, is that enough of a sign that she says, oh, you're out of town, I'm going to give you a drink and I'm going to give your camels to drink? So the Medrash actually calls him out and says that would have been a bit of a problem. He's very lucky that it happened that someone from Abraham's family happened to come at that exact time, and he could have his request fulfilled. And actually, that was the girl from the right family. But, you know, a slave girl or somebody inappropriate could have actually come. But he made a request, the Midrash says, in an incorrect way, but Hashem gave him in a correct way. Everybody with me? With the problem with what he said and how it was answered? Okay. Okay. So that was happened to him. Then it happened with someone else that with Kalev, it says, whoever defeats the Kiryat Sef and conquers it, I will give him my daughter Achsa as a wife. One of the generals says, whoever conquers such and such a village, if the general is successful, I'm going to give him my daughter as a wife. Well, the guy who conquered that city could have been a terrible person, could have been a really, good soldier, but evil man. And he made such a promise, but Hashem was kind, and it wasn't a bad person. It wasn't a slave. And so Hashem was able to give him, actually, it turned out a really good guy was the one who did everything. And so he could marry his daughter to a decent person. And then it says that another person, Otniel, son of Kenaz, brother of Kalev, okay, that's who was the one who defeated the city. And then we know King Shaul said, whoever defeats Goliath will be able to marry my daughter, right? And it so happened that he was very lucky that David HaMelech was the one who happened to defeat Goliath, and so Shaul could give his daughter to David, and that was a good shidduch. But it happened that one person said that, and it's Yiftach, I don't know who this is, Yiftach, but he said that if I'm victorious in this battle, whoever comes out to meet me after I've won this battle, I'm going to offer as a sacrifice to Hashem. And it wasn't the right thing to say, because he didn't know who was going to come out. And what actually happened is his daughter came out to greet him. And it says in that instance, Hashem didn't protect him. And then the Midrash goes into a whole big thing of what happened with his daughter, which I'm not going to go into. But when Eliezer said that, he was lucky in the fact that Hashem made it that the right girl came. But it could have been that she wouldn't have come. But it was a chesed. Okay, everybody with me on that? Yes? Okay. So anyway, she's very nice, and she comes out, and he sees, and he's very lucky because he hasn't even finished speaking to Hashem when Rivka comes out. And the Midrash also says when Moshe Rabbeinu was talking about Korach, he hadn't even finished speaking, and immediately his prayer around that was answered. And there was another person who hadn't even finished speaking, and right away, also King Shlomo, when he was offering sacrifices, he said, please, can the fire come down and consume the korban? And he hadn't even finished speaking, and it came. So these are people who were very fortunate that their prayers were answered right away, because as soon as Eliezer makes this request, Hashem answers him right away. And then she's a very beautiful girl. She was a virgin, and she went to the spring and she filled her pitcher and came back up. And let me just stop the share for a while for this. And I want to share something in the same token as talking about the specialness of the well and the specialness of drawing water from a well. So I've been quoting my good friend Shimona Tsukernik for many, many years, that when Rivka poured out from her pitcher to all the camels, she was pouring out Torah for all time. And I just heard that from Shimona. I must have heard it over 10 years ago, or maybe even 12 years ago. And I've been looking and looking and looking for a source for what that means and a source for what that is, and trying to find details about it. And I wasn't able to find it anywhere until today. I wasn't doubting it. I just wanted to know more details. So I found a little bit of more details now. And it turns out that there's a few things that this is based off of. That her picture, the word for picture in Hebrew is a kad. So if I just share just 1 minute this pasuk here, just to go back to the pasuk, she filled her picture. So here's the Vahana'aria, Vahana'ara, the young girl, this virginal girl. Tovat Mareh, she was beautiful to look at. Me'od, very much. Betula repeats in another way that she was virginal. So she wasn't only a virgin, but she was very innocent. No man had seen her. She hadn't been kind of impure in her behavior in any way. Ve'ish lo yada'a, no man knew her even on any, she was extremely protected. And it says that she was like a rose among thorns, but even a rose among thorns, when the rose starts to blossom, it's time for the rose to be picked. And so Eliezer had to get there it was time for her to be taken to a more positive environment. Kada v'ta'al. This kada is her picture. And the way we spell it is kuf dalid hey, kada, her picture. So when we're thinking about her picture, so the numerical value of a picture is 24. And this alludes to the 24 books of Torah. Kad, it's 24 books of Torah. And the spring to which she's getting water from a well. And what makes it, there's something about that well that's being replenished. This water is from a sort of living source of water. The spring alludes to the source of divine wisdom. And again, the 24 books form the channel through which Hashem's wisdom flows into the world. And then when we say kada, and we put a hey at the end of it, so this is kind of, so the picture, so there's a connection to the oral Torah as well. So the picture symbolizes the written Torah. The spring in which it was lowered is the oral Torah. So dipping the pitcher into the water thus signifies the combination of the written Torah and the oral Torah. So there's tremendous symbolism of this girl. So on the one hand, there's the image of her going into the source of wisdom of the world, of Torah, divine wisdom, and pouring it and pouring it and pouring it. And then remember, there were 10 camels that she's got to feed, or not feed, feed their thirst. So I think the 10 camels are connected to the 10 midot, or 10 aspects of person that these 24 books of the Torah are going to be feeding the world. So she's doing this symbolic action, and the Kabbalah even talks about this as like a connection to redemption, that it's coming from a woman, and she's kind of dishing out and bestowing and sharing this Torah of the world by digging in and, by going down into the water and bringing up the pitcher and, giving it out to all of these camels. So it's a very beautiful image. And so that's what I wanted to share with you about the water. And he says, and then of course, Rashi tells us that when she first goes down to get the water rises up to her, which shows that she's like a special person and she has this special blessing from above. And she lowers this pitcher from her shoulder. So this is the lowering down and bringing up, which Kabbalistically is kind of a whole, going down to bring up, a whole mystical thing. And then she fills for all the camels. And after this, Eliezer knows that she's the girl. He was very lucky, like I explained. Hashem protected him and made sure that the right girl came at the right time. And then I wanted to go and skip a little bit because there's the whole negotiation with Lavan and her brother trying to cheat Eliezer and different little things that are going on there. And she basically, Rivka wants to go with Eliezer right away. The family tried to say maybe she should get engaged and stay a little longer till she's old. And she's like, no, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Because Eliezer comes to the family and suggests the shidduch, right? And she decides that she really wants to go right away, that she gets the nose ring and she gets the bracelets. We're not going to talk about that right now. And
Mother goes with her, right?
say again?
Her mother goes with her.
Her nursemaid.
Oh,
Her
no, okay.
nursemaid.
And what
sort
did
of,
her 3 years old?
I think her nursemaid, her private, like nanny, nursemaid, private assistant. So yeah. And then he tells again how he was standing at the spring, he was at the well. You know, he repeats all of that how he tells the whole story again. I'm just jumping. Sorry, I don't mean to give you a headache while I'm looking for
Okay.
the meeting. Yes.
Whole thing. It's so hard to wrap your head around.
Say again.
What's with the three being 3 years old? That's so hard to wrap.
Yeah, that's so yeah, weird there.
So first of all, she goes with her wet nurse, right? So that's who she goes with.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we're joining the pasuk when she starts to go with Eliezer back to Abraham's family, and she's going to meet Yitzchak. What to say about the 3 years old? I think our concept of time is a little different, maybe, to how it was then. I can't really speak to that. I haven't learned enough into it to speak with any great depth or to say anything that would be helpful. I don't think.
Next.
But I think you've got a point because I think I also remember reading that Bereshit is also full of a lot of allegories and so there is allusions to different. There could be allusions like one day in creation could have been to us 1,000 years. You know,
Right. I don't know exactly how time is calculated. I don't know what it means that she's 3. I can't address that, but she certainly was old enough to be asked if she wants to go. And she was treated enough as a mature person that when she said, I want to go, they didn't say, well, she's too young to be able to answer such a question. So, okay. So we're picking the story up when she comes back. She's going with her wet nurse and she's coming back with Eliezer. And it says, V'yetze Yitzchak lesuach b'sadeh. And this is a beautiful pasuk because Ariel Kaplan mentions this pasuk as the first place of meditation in the Torah. So what is he doing? Lasuach. He's praying, he's conversing, he's doing hisbodedus b'sadeh, in the fields. Lifnot erev, before evening time. V'yisa einav, and he lifts his eyes, v'yar, and he sees, v'hine gamalim ba'im, and behold, camels are coming. So if you go into just this pasuk, there's lots of deeper things on this pasuk to share. First of all, his father had already instituted the morning prayer, Shacharit. And we identify Shacharit with Avraham, Mincha with Yitzchak, and Mariv with Yaakov. But how did it come to be that those things happened? So Everything about Abraham is he got up early in the morning, he saddled his donkey, he got ready to go. He's like a early riser, and his energy is start the day, and he connects to Hashem and he prays. There's a very interesting little reading here. So Yitzchak wanted to initiate the practice. Yitzchak's soul felt that, okay, we prayed in the morning, but, you know, the day is ending, the energy is shifting. He wants to initiate another prayer. He feels that maybe there's space or room for another prayer in the world, but he doesn't want to offend his father, because his father, it's kind of interesting to imagine that he could have a thought of not wanting to insult his father. I'm just going to read it here, how it is in the Kohos Chumash. It says, he wanted to initiate this prayer at the end of the day, but he didn't wish to offend his father by formally instituting an additional daily prayer, because this might imply that his father's efforts were somehow lacking. As if, I mean, it's an interesting insight. Therefore, he prayed in the field, privately, even though it's normally preferable to pray indoors. So this is just an opinion of why he needed to be outside. I like the idea that he was outside, because even before Rabbi Nachman came on the scene, he felt that this is a, you know, good place to pray. It's his vodidus, out, away from everybody. But I'm going to read it as it's here in the Kohos Chumash. However, when Avram found out about his son's innovation, he also adopted it as well, and thus the afternoon prayer was formally instituted. But then the Kohos Chumash goes even deeper, and it says, from a deeper perspective, when Avram instituted the morning daily prayer, he also was praying in the afternoon, because he kept the whole Torah, but he didn't want to put that on everybody else. He didn't encourage the rest of the family to do that. But when he saw that Yitzchak had already intuited it, he then kind of, they then said, okay, this is a good thing to do. Let's do it. So just technically speaking, Shachris and Mincha are in the Torah as prayers, and in they what we call deraisa. They mandated from the actual Chumash. But then Ma'ariv, even though Yaakov had his dream at night of the angels going up and down, the evening prayer, which is connected to Yaakov, was instituted by the rabbis. Okay, so he's having his meditative aspect, and he's seeing the camels coming on the horizon. And then when Rivka saw Yitzchak, she slid off the camel. She was so taken, and apparently what she saw him being incredibly majestic. She kind of wants to know, who is that person? And then she says to Eliezer, who is this man? There's something about his aura or something about his persona that is very amazing. And he says, that's my master, that's your shidduch, that's the man that I'm bringing you to meet. And she covers herself. And then Eliezer tells Yitzchak everything that had happened. And this is a beautiful Rashi. And I'm going to ask one of you to read it. It says, Yitzchak brought Rivka into the tent of his mother, Sarah, and he married Rivka, and she became his wife. And look at the order of the words. After she becomes his wife, it says, and he loved her. So first he married her, and then he loved her, and then it says he was consoled over the loss of his mother. Does somebody want to read that Rashi over there, that he brought her into the tent? Somebody want to read that? Do you have anyone who wants to read that Rashi?
Yeah, all right. He brought her into the tent, and she was his mother, Sarah. In other words, she became exactly like his mother, Sarah. For as long as Sarah was alive, the lamp would remain lit in her tent from one Sabbath Eve until the next Sabbath Eve. There was always a blessing. In other words, a miraculous increase in the dough, and a cloud constantly hovered over the tent. But since she died, all these had ceased. And when Rebecca came, they resumed. It's natural that,
Wait. So Sandra read this very quickly.
Oh, sorry.
And you read it well, but I want you to know how important this Rashi is, because these things that had been departed from the tent of Sarah are the main things of our Jewish home life, Kedusha, and they also feed into what becomes miracles identified with the Beit HaMikdash. So let's go over them one by one. So when it says she became exactly like his mother Sarah, it doesn't mean that their personalities were necessarily alike, but it means in terms of her Kedusha, she was able to pick up, so to speak, where Sarah had left off. She was like Sarah in her ability to bring these blessings down. And what were the blessings? For as long as Sarah was alive, the lamps, in other words, the candles, would remain lit in her tent from one Shabbos Eve to the next Shabbos Eve. So imagine, we light candles, and our candles stay lit from one Shabbos all the way to another. That's pretty holy candles, right? So what does that represent? What is representative of that in the Beit HaMikdash, the candles? Anyone know?
The
Nora.
no, yeah, I was just gonna...
The menorah. So in the menorah, now what happens with the Beit HaMikdash is the Beit HaMikdash is trying to reconstitute and copy, in a way, the holiness of the tent of Sarah and then the tent of Rivka. And then we don't talk about it with Rochel and Leah and Rochel and Leah and Bilhah and Zilpah, but there was probably holiness in this same way in their tents as well. But by Rivka, it's each thing is mentioned. So her Shabbos candles were lit for a whole week. And so that's one thing. This light of the divine light was shining. Right. Then what was the next thing? In the dough, there was always a blessing in the dough. So the dough didn't go stale one week till the next. So her dough was sort of blessed. So what is that represented by in the Mishkan?
The showbreads.
The showbreads. They stayed fresh from all the time. And then and a cloud constantly hovered over the tent. So the cloud constantly hovering over the tent, this is connected to
Clouds of glory.
Clouds of glory.
Clouds of glory later. And in the Beis HaMikdash, what would the clouds of glory be connected to? It's just slipping my mind for a minute.
The name of it is the Hebrew. It's the covering clouds over the Beis HaMikdash. No, the divine
Shekhinah.
Shekhinah.
Right. So this is like a big thing. So this is why we have in our obligations to women, we have Shabbos candles, we have challah, and we have mikveh connected to Taras HaMishpacha. So that's the Shekhinah, that the Shekhinah dwells in a couple when they keep the mitzvah of mikveh. And they have a holy relationship together, and they do things according to halacha. Then the Shekhinah hovers above the cloud. So, and then it says, and because he saw that she had the same capacity to be connected to this kind of spirituality, she was comforted. He was comforted, because if you feel that kind of spirituality is lost, that's a tremendous devastation. But if you can feel that actually it's not lost, it's going to continue. And who better to continue than Rivka, who was the one who could take her pitcher, which is connected to 24, and dip into the water of wisdom and then, pass on the 24 books of the Torah. So he's comforted because he knows that this energy of being connected on high is going to continue and going to be there and available for the generations to come. That's why even though it says Sarah died, but this is the Pasha about her life. It's because it's showing us how she lives on into the next generations.
Mhm.
So that's all from me.
Wow.
And ready for any comments or questions from anyone who would like to share. And if not, that's also fine.
I just like to say again that the Shavasana was Yotze in a Klal. It was just members in the pictures for anyone who wasn't there to
Mhm.
feel a part of it from the pictures. It's just exceptional.
Thank you.
So
Thank you very much. Thank you.
maybe
And Karen, I see you here and we didn't see your face, but I know you're there, so I want to welcome you. And I'm not sure, I see Nechama's here, but I'm not sure which Nechama it is that I can greet you, because I just see Nechama, but I'm not sure which Nechama it is. So it could be Nechama from Morristown, but I'm not sure. And I don't know if this telephone is Melissa, but I'm not sure that either. But thank you everyone for joining. And
Thank
I
you very
Leah
much.
was
It was
on,
fun.
so
Wow.
welcome to Leah. So
This
yeah,
is
good
amazing.
Shabbos everyone. And
Shabbos,
we should be zoicher to keep
Mhm.
dipping into the water
I
and,
mean, yes.
and passing it out and drinking from it and being nourished by the waters of Torah.
Yes.
Amen. Thank you, Bracha.
Thank you so much.
All right, all the
Appreciate it.
best.
Sorry. Good
Sei
night.
gesund. All the best.
Thanks.